Okay, let's continue on and do a couple more problems so you can see some different scenarios. Our second problem, we'll have 6x cubed plus 3x squared minus 10x minus 5. And if we look at this, there is no greatest common factor, so we can move forward, and it's in the standard form. So we're going to go ahead and group our terms. Now notice I've put the negative sign in with the parentheses. We have to go back and put a positive sign between these to indicate that the two parentheses or two groups are added together. Okay, and what do we have in common in the first group? 3 goes into both 6 and 3, and x cubed and x squared both have an x squared in them. So that's what we factor out. So when I factor something out, I divide each term by that amount. So 6x cubed divided by 3x squared leaves me with x, and 3x squared divided by 3x squared gives me 1. Okay, so we've got our plus sign. Now what is in common between a negative 10x and a negative 5? We're going to factor out a negative 5 from both of those. So we have plus a negative 5, which we normally would just write as a minus sign. So negative 10x divided by negative 5 is 2x, and negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a positive 1. Now notice these don't match, and that's because we made a mistake here. 6x cubed divided by 3x squared is 2x. Okay, so now we've done that correctly. Both of terms, there are my two terms, have a 2x plus 1. So we're factoring the 2x plus 1 out of each term, and then looking at what's left. So what's left here is the 3x squared, and what's left here is plus a negative 5, which we normally would just write as minus 5. So those are my two factors, 2x plus 1 and 3x squared minus 5. Neither of those can be factored further, so we would be done with that problem. Okay, let's try another problem. Let's start with 2x squared, or cubed, plus 3x squared minus 8x minus 12. Doesn't look like anything is in common in all four terms, and it's in order. So we'll start by grouping. And again, because we had a negative here, we've got to go back and put a plus sign in between our two parentheses, or two groups. And in our first one, 2 and 3 have no number in common, but x cubed and x squared both have an x squared. So we'll take out the x squared, which will leave us with 2x plus 3. And on my second group, they both have a negative 4. So we're going to factor out that minus 4, which would leave us with 2x, and negative 12 divided by negative 4 is a positive 3. So now we've got our first term and our second term, and both of terms contain a 2x plus 3. So we're factoring the 2x plus 3 out. And what we're left with is the x squared minus 4. Those are factored, and we always want to look and see, can we factor any further? And you'll notice that x squared minus 4 is going to be the difference of two squares, because x squared is a perfect square and 4 is a perfect square. So we do need to finish factoring that problem. So we have 2x plus 3 still hanging out, and the factors of x squared minus 4 are x plus 2 and x minus 2. At this point, you're finished with the problem as it's fully factored. Let's do two more problems, and then you'll be on your own to work on the homework. Okay. So this is problem 4. 10x cubed plus 25x squared plus 6x plus 15. Okay, a lot bigger numbers. If we take a quick look, we've got 10, 25, 6, and 15. I almost thought a 5 went into all of them, but it doesn't go into 6. So there is no greatest common factor here. So we'll go ahead and just do our grouping. Okay, and in our first term we've got 5 goes into 10 and 25, and x cubed and x squared both share an x squared. So we're left with 2x plus 5 when we factor out the 5x squared. And in our second group, 3 goes into 6 and 3 goes into 15, but nothing larger, so we factor out the 3, and we're left with 2x plus 5. So again, we get that by dividing both terms by what you factor out. Okay, now both groups have a 2x plus 5, and we're left with 5x squared plus 3. Neither one of those can be factored further, so we're done with that problem. Okay, last problem. We have got, let's see, a negative 21x cubed plus a 7x squared minus 21x plus 7x to the fourth. Okay, this one looks a little messed up. Notice we've got the fourth at the very end. So that one needs to be our first term. So we're going to rewrite that as 7x to the fourth minus 21x to the third plus 7x squared minus 21x. So I've just rearranged the order. Everything still has the same sign with it. And now let's take a look. 7, 21, 7, and 21. 7 goes into all of those. So I'm going to factor out a 7. And they all have an x, so we'll take out an x. So 7x is my greatest common factor. And I'm going to factor it out of everything. So we're left with 7x, no, not 7. We're just left with x cubed minus 3x squared plus x minus 3. So that's what our problem looks like. Okay, so this 7x, that was our greatest common factor from the whole equation. It's going to hang out in the front as we do everything else. So we always will start with the 7x and those parentheses or brackets. And I'm just using brackets to make it really obvious what we're working on. So at this point I now need to group them. So let's just go ahead and group them up there. And what do we have in common here? It looks like an x squared. So we're left with x minus 3. And in our second term, there's nothing in common. So really what we have there is just the number 1. So if you factor out a 1, nothing changes. Okay, now staying within our big brackets, we've got our first term and second term, and they both contain an x minus 3. So we leave the 7x out in front, and now factor the x minus 3. What's left in the first part is x squared minus x squared, and the second part we have a plus 1. So our final factors here are 7x, x minus 3, and x squared plus 1. So since that's a plus, we can't factor that one any further. So we have 7x. We don't need to keep those big brackets. X squared plus 1. And you're done with that problem.